Donald Trump on his side. And the other thing that Putin will do is, if he can delay it, he will use that time to try and create additional fissures between the United States and Ukraine, the United States and the EU, UK and the EU, UK and the US. He will do everything he can from his geopolitical maneuvering to try and cause more difficulties, and then difficulties inside the United States itself, and then potentially even stimulate other mini conflicts popping up in different parts of the world to try and take people's focus away from him and away from Ukraine. So the longer that he can buy, the better. Because Putin, I think, is concerned if Donald Trump does to him what he did to Zelensky and comes in with very hard sanctions, which would destroy the Russian economy. If those sanctions came in on top of what's there already, but took proactive effort against the shadow fleet of tankers that are still keeping the oil trade moving for Russia and still allowing Russia to finance its illegal full-scale war into Ukraine. So Putin, I think, is worried. Well, if he came out publicly and said no, he'd have backed Donald Trump into a corner where Donald Trump would have had to hit him with very heavy economic sanctions and possibly more. So yes, Putin is backed almost into a corner. He's got some maneuver room, but what he's trying to do is buy time so that he can test his options and see what's the best route for him to take. So the coming days and weeks are going to be fascinating. Kursk is part of it. Putin was severely embarrassed that the Ukrainians managed to walk into parts of Russia, and interestingly, it's a lot of the people in the Kursk region speak Ukrainian rather than Russian. But that's an aside. But Putin was severely embarrassed, and it brought the war home to average Russians when they hadn't heard about it beforehand, because Putin could control the press about what was going on outside Russia. It's important to think for him to take Kursk back again. He's been at it for months and months and months now, and it's only whenever the US managed to turn off the intelligence support for Ukraine and the long-range weapon support for Ukraine that the Russians clearly had a plan waiting and executed that plan and have virtually pushed the Ukrainians out. How much of that's the Ukrainians being pushed out? How much is that the Ukrainians going, we need to withdraw because this is costing us too much time and effort? Kursk was a bargaining chip for Ukraine. It's a relatively minor bargaining chip, but it was a big issue for Vladimir Putin. And if he can push the Ukrainians out, he will take that as a victory. He doesn't want, and this is part of the reason why he's delaying at the moment, he doesn't want a ceasefire which freezes front lines where Ukraine still occupies part of Russia. Putin will agree to a ceasefire if it's on his terms. And if he can get the language in such a way that it is so flexible, he can interpret it in his terms, if that allows him to buy time. Because Putin needs time. His military is suffering hugely at the moment. His economy is suffering. We're seeing night after night massive Ukrainian drone attacks across Russia, hitting Moscow and hitting elsewhere. Putin knows that the war is coming to Moscow, and that's something he does not want to happen. So he will want to come up with something, I think, but it's going to be totally worded in a way that he can interpret it his way. And is it going to last? No, I don't think so.